Today, let's talk about one of the more shocking stories brought to us by the culture of death. On June 11th, 2025, a mother and daughter from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, were charged with having an at-home abortion and abusing the baby's corpse before putting it under the ground. Lord have mercy. The corrupt judges cannot seem to come to a conclusion, even though the daughter sent graphic photos of her nearly dead son to a friend. Although this story is horrific, it begs some questions. Why would what they did be illegal if abortion is legal? We're asking the questions you're not supposed to ask. We're going to dig into all the legalities and complications of the case. But first, follow us on Rumble. I know that most people watch everything on YouTube these days. I get it. But Rumble is where free speech lives, and this show was almost digitally assassinated on YouTube once before. Help us protect the show by going to Rumble and hitting subscribe. Give us a rating and review to help us reach more people. That purple app called Podcasts on your iPhone. Find the Seth Gruber Show. Give us 5 stars. Leave a little review. Positive. Let us know what you think of the show. We really appreciate it. And if you want to be a part of the White Rose Resistance, of what we're doing here to awaken, mobilize, and educate the church to reclaim her spiritual obligation and mantle of Christian resistance. I mean, frankly, guys, unless the church flatulent becomes the church militant, it will become the church irrelevant, okay? The church has been defined by its opposition to these same kind of evils, and today the local church is asleep, in the light, at the wheel. We're trying to change that. If that's important to you, go to thewhiterose.life and become an ally at $35 a month. It means so much to us. You get your battle box in the mail, join our White Rose app. There's so much on there for you as a supporter. Or $70 a month as air support, we call that. Of course, you can give more than that as well. But air support, you join our Books in the Barracks book club, and we just hang out and read books together. And you join me on Zoom. We send out the information weeks ahead of time. We just kind of hang out and talk about books that matter and help us stand for life and truth in a culture of death. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Seth Gruber Show. Did you know in the state of Pennsylvania, it's only child abuse if the baby is already dead? I hate our culture sometimes. Gonna tell you that. Sometimes I don't know what to do anymore. That's why I come on here and I rave, and sometimes the Instagram reel goes viral, and sometimes we get a message and someone says they didn't kill their baby because they watched me on a show or they saw something. Like, these are the little things we can do to push back, because the insanity and evil of this story that I'm about to tell you is hard to even articulate. And that's what I do for a living. I just articulate and talk. It boggles the mind. But it reveals the inconsistencies and, frankly, sort of the schizophrenic nature of the liberal establishment and its cornerstone or linchpin of abortion. This story is so insane. June 11th, 2025, this story just broke last week. A Lancaster County mother and daughter have been charged with concealing the death of a newborn baby and then abusing its corpse after they induced an at-home abortion earlier last year in 2024. Okay, what the heck? Okay, so here's the story. And there's lots of stories about abortion around the culture. You just go on Google and you just Google abortion news. You're going to see tons of stories. But every once in a while, one comes up and we have to cover it on the show, because just the fact that the story and event happened and the cultural and legal response to it, just talking about the story, like not even injecting commentary. Okay, like just covering the story as it exists in and of itself reveals the schizophrenic nature and the inconsistencies that are definitionally a part of being pro-choice. And this is one of those stories. The mother in this story, Shannon Jones, is charged with criminal conspiracy to conceal the death of a child. By the way, isn't that interesting? I want you to think, okay, just Think deeply with me for a second here, okay? It's only okay, I guess, to use the word child when the murdered fetus is no longer in the mother's body. You can call a dead aborted baby a child, but God forbid that you call it a child when it's alive and growing and exactly in the location that it should be, the uterus. Believe me, okay, take my word for it. I go to the college campuses so you don't have to. When I'm talking to these feminazis, hat tip to Rush Limbaugh, these 18 to 22-year-olds about abortion, even in like deep red middle America states, and I call it a baby or a child, they immediately freak out and push back. It's not a child. I'm telling you, this is like universally the response from pro-abortion people. It's not a child. It's not a child yet. Not a baby yet. But apparently, if you try to conceal the cadaver of an aborted baby that you didn't flush down the toilet, then you can be charged with criminal conspiracy to conceal the death of a child. Oh, now we can call it a child? You start to see, are you starting to see like just surface level covering this story? All the inconsistencies begin to come out. And by the way, I'm reading from Fox43. .com covering this story. Okay. So I'm not saying that she's being charged with criminal conspiracy to conceal the death of the child. That's what the judges are saying, and the district attorney are saying she's being charged with. Okay. The daughter, okay, in this story, so like the mother of the baby is now 18, but when this happened, she was 17. The daughter will be charged with concealing the death of a child and abuse of a corpse. Wow. Why is it wrong to abuse the cadaver of an aborted baby, but legal healthcare and feminism to kill them in the first place? I have so many questions. District Attorney Heather Adams said the baby was born in May 2024, and the daughter shared pictures of him, the baby, with others and kept him in a box for days before she and her mother buried his body in their backyard. Last chance, guys, to come to the last stand. Don't miss out. It's going all down this Saturday, June 21st. Guys, it's going to be awesome. We're going to have bold speakers, life-changing worship, food, games, and activities all day long. We are proudly declaring that we are the generation rising up to resist the culture of death, celebrate, and defend the family. TheLastStand.com. We're taking back June, and we're awakening and mobilizing the local church to stand against the wickedness that we see rising so quickly in targeting the children and family. And frankly, if you come to the Last Stand, I don't know, I'm just saying you might literally get a Last Stand sword that I don't even know. We're in a battle. This is just a metaphor to remind you of the battle that we're in. Join me in Southern California alongside some of the boldest voices in America, like Pastor Jack Hibbs and David Harris Jr. and Steve Dace and Alex Clark and Heidi St. John and so many more. We'll be worshiping with Ben Fuller, 10th Avenue North and Influence Worship, and more, because this is more than an event. It's a declaration. It's repentance. It's an awakening. It's mobilization. We're trying to give God a reason to show America mercy. So bring your friends, bring your family, bring your church, pull your pastor along with you. Okay, it's time to push back. It's time to stand. It's time to rebuild. Go to thelaststand.com. All right, it even says it on the sword. Go to thelaststand.com. Get your ticket today and use code Seth10, Seth10 for 10% off your ticket. You can level up and get a VIP, hang out with me and some of the speakers. Thelaststand.com. I'll see you this Saturday at The Last Stand. Human babies literally have more rights to bodily autonomy after they've been murdered than they ever had when they were still in utero and alive. Let's say that again. Human babies literally have more bodily autonomy rights after they're dead than they ever had when they were alive and in utero. Does that make sense to you? The mother is further accused of endangering her then 17-year-old by purchasing abortion pills online and using them way past the 10-week gestational limit that are the guidelines of the RU486 abortion pill. Her daughter was 20 weeks pregnant. By the way, you want to know the youngest baby ever born alive and survived and then grew up and is thriving and is totally fine? 20 weeks and 1 day. So this baby was right there at what is potentially like a savable baby. Of course, they tried to murder her in the womb, though. The little boy. No one is being charged with criminal homicide, according to the district attorney, due to the inability to determine whether the baby was born alive and the child had decomposed too much in their backyard by the time they unearthed the murdered baby to determine if it survived any minutes after it was attempted to be killed in utero. Now, of course, anyone with 2 brain cells left to rub together would ask this question. Why can't we charge them for the sole act of killing the unborn child? Well, because abortion is legal in Pennsylvania through 24 weeks, and the law explicitly exempts the aborting mother from any type of prosecution for killing her baby. District Attorney Heather Adams said a homicide charge could only be supported if the Commonwealth could prove that the baby was born alive. But in this case, the Commonwealth would be unable to present any forensic testimony that the baby was born alive due to the gestational age and primarily because the corpse only consisted of skeletal remains. This little boy was murdered by his mother and his grandmother, kept in a box for days, and then buried in their backyard. Apparently, though, the mother, Shannon Jones, described movement of her recently born grandson that she tried to murder in text messages like involuntary reflexes and tightening of muscles. Yeah, generally when you're super premature and you're trying to breathe air at 20 weeks outside of your mother's uterus, you'll be tightening your muscles and reflexing and trying to not suffocate. Shocker! That your grandson that you were murdering was having reflexes trying to breathe. But the district attorney said that these are not determinative of a baby having been born alive. It might have just been involuntary reflexes of a cadaver, I guess is what they're saying. Insane story. According to this unfolding story, investigators began looking into the defendants in March of this year, March, April, May, June, 3 months ago, after a witness provided police with pictures, some witness, we don't know who, with pictures that the daughter, so the mother of the baby, had sent to this witness, which showed the baby shortly after birth with the umbilical cord still attached and laying inside a trash bag. The daughter had sent pictures to this witness, accompanied by text saying she was afraid to touch the newborn because he would still move on his own. How does the district attorney think that they can't charge for criminal homicide and infanticide for a baby that is only outside of the womb because you tried to kill them in the first place? And that's the other insanity of being pro-choice. That's the insanity of choice. Think about that. It is legal, and apparently legal because it's a right. Apparently that's what the state of Pennsylvania thinks. So this is a right, so therefore it's legal that any mother can have any baby in utero murdered through 24 weeks gestation in the state of Pennsylvania. And the aborting mother can never be prosecuted in any way, shape, or form, because that's her right to have her baby killed. But if she attempts to murder the baby and the abortion is unsuccessful and the child is only outside of the uterus because of that initial attempt to kill them, which is a legal protected right, then if you don't care for the baby who's now only moved 6 inches, it's criminal homicide. That's the insanity of being pro-choice. As if there was a fetus fairy who sprinkled magical personhood conferring fairy dust on the child as it moved from uterus to the table or its mother's waiting arms. Oh my gosh, it's a person! It's like my friend Laura Clausen says, is this a magical birth canal? Does it confer personhood? Like, think about that for a second. Make that make sense. If you're pro-choice, make that make sense. Give me the rationale behind that. Super legal blessing of liberty and right for a mom to have her child killed in the utero. But if the attempt is unsuccessful and now the child's outside of the uterus and you don't do anything to take care of that baby, you kill them or you flush them down the toilet, murder, criminal homicide. Why? Because of a 6-inch journey through the birth canal? You're an idiot if you believe that. That's somehow morally significant. That there's somehow a moral difference there. And by the way, that's why in some state governments to this day, there are hospitals where on one wing of one floor of the hospital, there are physicians and doctors working heroically to keep a 23-week-old preemie alive. And on the other wing of the same floor of the same hospital, there are physicians actively murdering and dismembering a child in utero at 30 weeks. That's the insanity of choice. This story reveals so many insanities and inconsistencies of being pro-choice. But first, we want to thank our sponsor of the Seth Gruber Show. Once again, our good friends at Every Life Diaper Company. Your diapers, your wipes, your baby shampoos and body washes, toxic-free, all that great stuff. You know, you're not putting toxins all over your baby's body. We love Every Life. We use that at the Gruber family. And we sign up for the subscription. So it actually just gets delivered straight to the house. It's super awesome. We don't have to think about, oh gosh, last minute Walmart run. Okay, everylife.com, promo code Seth10. And it's actually quality stuff. It's really great. But most importantly, it's your way and my way to declare that we will not participate in a culture of death. That what you fund, you get more of. And we, for too long, have been spending our dollars with companies and organizations that hate us and our values. Almost every major American diaper company supports abortion. They celebrate it, they help fund it, they pay for their employees to kill their kids, okay? The industry that profits when more babies are born is often the same industry that is incentivizing and funding the killing of babies, but not at Every Life. Go to everylife.com, promo code Seth10, Seth10 for 10% off your first order, and let them know that we sent you. Get your family, get your loved ones, get your friends having babies, and get your nursery at your church getting their diapers from everylife.com. Promo code Seth10. Let them know that we sent you. That helps us here at the show, and you get 10% off. Thank you, Every Life, for sponsoring the Seth Gruber Show. You know what? There was a story in Pennsylvania, same state, back in 2019. I haven't covered this since 2019. By the way, if you've been a listener of this show since unaborted 2019 days, shoot me a message if you remember this. I bet there's very few of you, but I talked about this in 2019. Pennsylvania, same state. The Republicans in December of 2019 were trying to pass a law requiring burials for fetal remains, meaning you had to have a respectful burial for an aborted baby. The final Pennsylvania Disposition of Fetal Remains Act, or House Bill 1890, was first introduced in September of 2019. The bill redefines fetal death to mean death at any point in pregnancy after conception. Under it, health providers would have to cremate or bury all fetal remains if they aren't claimed by a parent. This is brilliant, by the way. Of course, the best legislation should just be ban abortion, criminalize it for anyone involved. Okay, yes and amen. But this was prior to Roe getting overturned, and the Republicans were basically trying to put into place premises in the law that forced the culture and forced citizens to admit that the murdered, aborted body of a baby had enough dignity to require a respectful burial. And as you can imagine, the Democrats lost their mind because they can't allow those premises into the law, right? So it was clever in that sense. According to Associated Press, the bill passed through the State House last week. This was 2019. It is now being considered by the state Senate. Its sponsor, Representative Francis Ryan, said, "We wanted to craft something that was voluntary, that provided the family with the ability for closure, the ability to understand that a human life was lost, their life, that they'd been striving for so long." So the bill was simply a reminder, like, hey, these are human beings, right? Of course, people lost their minds. According to Rewire.news, part of the reason is due to cost. Right now, remains are usually incinerated, which is cheaper than burial or cremation. Of course, they're talking about little human beings. By mandating that fetal remains be disposed of in a certain way, the law puts financial strain on abortion providers, many of which would have to enter into new contracts with vendors to follow them. The increased cost of burial and cremation could then translate to providers having to increase the cost of abortions themselves, another barrier to access for low-income women in particular. Can I translate that for you? If we can't take our abortions to market at a competitive price, we'll lose a market share of children who might survive. They said this is yet another way for anti-abortion lawmakers to remove people's agency. This is how they attacked a bill requiring respectful treatment of dead aborted babies. Do you see the connection with this attempt in 2019 and the story we're talking about in Pennsylvania right now? There's this acknowledgement that this aborted baby murdered by his mother and his grandmother should be treated respectfully after he is dead. Which starts to beg the question, well, should we have treated him with respect by not killing him? Do you see what kind of questions you have to start asking? If we're now supposed to acknowledge the humanity and the childness of a baby who's been aborted. They said bills like HB 1890 are trying to push anti-abortion lawmakers' understanding of a pregnancy onto people. And by the way, this was so ironic at the time because the abortion industry ironically pushes their understanding of pregnancy on the pregnant women that they treat like prospects and the children they dismember. They're pushing their understanding of pregnancy onto those people. Pennsylvania State Representative Dan Frankel, a Democrat, told PennLive.com, it's simply wrong to tell women what a loss of a pregnancy is supposed to mean to them. Of course, the irony, again, is that the abortion industry and pro-choice movement tell women every day what the loss / abortion of their pregnancy is supposed to mean to them. Their entire narrative is built on telling women that their pregnancy was not a person, and abortion is a commonplace medical procedure like getting a polyp removed. I mean, Planned Parenthood tells women that the loss of pregnancy is common and safe. It's like gently sectioning out the lining of the uterus. The governor of Pennsylvania at the time, Tom Wolf, had vowed to veto this bill, just saying there's respectful burial remain options for aborted babies. He was going to veto the bill. So you start wondering, okay, why? Why do pro-abortion people and Democrats oppose something like this? It's not restricting abortion, quote unquote, legal rights. It's just saying if the baby's dead, hey, here's respectful burial options. What does all this really mean? Why are they so angry about giving murdered babies a proper burial? The pro-abortion movement cannot, has never, and won't entertain anything that even slightly insinuates that unborn children are people with the rights therein. So demanding that murdered children are given a proper burial or cremation with a death certificate communicates that, these were actually children. With a humanity deserving of a certain level of respect. And if aborted children, here it is, if aborted children should be shown respect after death, then perhaps they should have been shown respect while they were still alive. Meaning they shouldn't have been aborted. Meaning your entire industry should be made illegal. That goes against pro-abortion ideological thinking and ideologues. The pro-choice movement never allows anything to shake or threaten their ideology because that might compromise the commitments of their members and the culture's understanding of the thing in the womb. And without a movement, they're nothing. It's like Will Ferrell and Elf. You sit on a throne of lies. That's what this whole thing's been built upon. Democrats and the entire left opposed that bill back in 2019. To acknowledge the humanity and the respectful treatment of babies who have already been aborted. But now, apparently, we're allowed to acknowledge the horror of mistreating the aborted bodies of babies. Apparently, it's criminal conspiracy to conceal the death of a child. It's a child now? And the abuse of a corpse? What kind of corpse? A human corpse? Human babies literally have more rights to bodily autonomy after they've already been murdered by their mother than they ever had when they were still alive and in utero. And that's why this story cuts to the quick. It divides the entire debate. It creates such moral clarity. And you should ask pro-abortion people. You should ask them, do you support giving parents options after an abortion to provide burial and cremation and a death certificate for the child they helped kill? You should ask them if they think that this mom and daughter were in the wrong for watching their attempted aborted son gasping for breath and doing nothing concealing his death and burying him in the backyard. How is it that all of that is illegal and wrong in the state of Pennsylvania? But it's legal and beautiful and wonderful and feminism and equality for them to kill the kid in the first place. Now, these are the questions you're not supposed to ask, right? These are the kind of questions that make the left so afraid. These are the kind of stories that they don't want to talk about or cover, because it starts to beg too many questions. It starts to bubble up too many, self-evident common truths, like maybe we all know we're killing babies. Like maybe we actually know that's a human being. And that's where I came from. And we all came from the same place. We all came from uteruses. So I guess it's only child abuse if the baby you're abusing is already dead. Now, I want to be clear. That's the only thing this daughter and mom is guilty of. They are only guilty and being prosecuted for abusing a cadaver of a child they successfully murdered. The murder part was fine. It was protected under Pennsylvania law. But the poking and prodding and the burying of the body that they already murdered, that was really wrong. What? That makes no sense. And of course, it's not supposed to make sense. And maybe that's because being pro-choice doesn't make sense. Maybe that's because being pro-abortion doesn't make sense. Maybe that's because celebrating the right to kill innocent little human beings in their mother's womb never actually made sense in the first place. It was always wrong. It was always evil. And if you think otherwise, you're wrong and you're an idiot. Well, that's why I like talking about these stories, because I think they reveal the inconsistencies and the schizophrenic nature of being pro-choice. And I'd encourage you to share a clip of a reel from this episode when you see it on social media. Share it like crazy. Send this episode to your pro-abortion friends. Okay. These are the things you're not supposed to talk about. These are the things that we love to talk about. These are the things that helps equip you to stand for life and be a voice for the unborn in our crooked and depraved generation, in which I hope you shine like stars. Thanks so much for tuning in. Head on over to iTunes, Spotify, YouTube. Give the show a rating and review. Let us know what you think. Until next week, I'm Seth Gruber, and this is The Seth Gruber Show.